who's actually going to get the most out of a refrigerant recovery system, and who would be better off putting that money toward a service shop instead. Is the Mastercool 69372 worth the price tag for an everyday shop owner? Or does it belong in a fleet garage that pulls 50-plus refrigerant lines a week? Those are the questions that keep most buyers up at night, especially when the wrong kit can mean wasted time, safety hazards, and a half-finished job. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's walk through the real-world considerations that separate a good investment from a gamble. First off, the biggest hesitation I've heard from technicians is around safety. When you're dealing with R134a or the newer R1234yf, the last thing you want is a spark igniting a vapor pocket. Mastercool's claim of spark-free components isn't just marketing fluff. The system's internal wiring and connections are designed without any exposed terminals that could generate a spark under load. In practice, that means you can hook the unit up to a vehicle's high-pressure line, start the compressor, and not worry about a sudden flash. For a mobile tech who works in cramped engine bays or in a shop with flammable cleaning chemicals nearby, that peace of mind is a tangible benefit, not an abstract safety badge. The next thing people ask is whether a single unit can handle both R134a and the newer R1234yf without swapping parts. The Mastercool 69372 is engineered for both refrigerants right out of the box. In a typical day, a technician might pull R134a from an older sedan, then move on to a newer hybrid that uses R1234yf. Because the compressor is oilless and the system doesn't rely on refrigerant-specific seals, you can flip a valve and keep working without a costly retrofit. That flexibility translates directly into less downtime between jobs and a lower overall cost per recovery when you compare it to buying separate kits for each refrigerant type. Portability is another practical angle. The housing is compact enough to fit on a standard service cart, and the 230-pound DO taproof tanks lock into place with built-in float switches. Those switches automatically shut the compressor off when a tank hits its capacity, preventing overpressurization and the dreaded tank burst scenario. I've seen techs on a 10-hour field day where they cycle between 3 different vehicles. The float switches let them focus on connecting hoses rather than constantly watching a pressure gauge. For anyone who spends more time on the road than in a stationary shop, that hands-free safety net is a real time saver. Now, let's talk about the actual recovery power. The dual-piston horsepower compressor is oilless, which eliminates the need to change or filter oil between refrigerant types. In a shop where you're moving from a heavy-duty truck to a compact sedan, the compressor can pull a full 30-pound tank of R1234yf in roughly 10 minutes under optimal conditions. That speed is comparable to higher-priced models that rely on oil-lubricated compressors, but the Mastercool does it without the extra maintenance headaches oil brings. For a small to mid-size operation, that efficiency means you can finish more jobs per day without adding another technician. The high-efficiency fan and oversized condenser are often overlooked, but they play a big role when you're working in a hot garage or outside in summer heat. The larger fan moves more air across the condenser coils, keeping the compressor from overheating during long pulls. I've watched technicians run the unit continuously for an hour straight on a 90-degree day, and the temperature on the compressor housing stayed comfortably low. That durability reduces the risk of premature wear, which is a hidden cost you don't see on the spec sheet. On the flip side, there are a few practical drawbacks that savvy buyers should weigh. The system's total weight, including the 2 tanks, hovers around 70 pounds. It's portable, but you'll need a sturdy cart or a couple of strong arms to move it around a busy shop floor. If you're a solo operator who needs to lug equipment upstairs or into tight spaces, that heft can become a logistical annoyance. Additionally, while the dual gauge set is brass and offers precise monitoring, the gauges are calibrated for the typical pressure ranges of our R134a and our R1234yf. If you ever need to work with an exotic refrigerant outside those ranges, you'd have to purchase an additional gauge set. That's not a deal breaker for most, but it's a cost that isn't included in the base price. Another consideration is the noise level. The fan and compressor together generate a sound signature you'd hear clearly across a shop bay. If your workspace is shared with a paint booth or a quiet customer waiting area, you might find the unit a bit louder than you'd like. It's not deafening, but it does add to the overall acoustic environment. So think about where you'll be positioning it during operation. Who should buy this system? If you're a mobile HVAC technician, an independent shop handling a mix of older and newer vehicles, or a fleet manager responsible for regular refrigerant recovery, the Mastercool 69372 checks